Story 1. 8 years back, I found myself on life support, facing complete organ failure due to a severe allergic reaction to medication, leading to sepsis. My CO2 levels skyrocketed to over 200, far beyond the threshold of 35, pushing me to the brink of brain death. The prognosis given by my doctors that weekend in late September 2015 was bleak, offering me less than a 1% chance of survival. Amidst this dire situation, a prayer blanket was placed over me and the hospital pastor delivered the last rites. It was during this critical time that I departed from my physical self and ventured into the astral realm. There I was met by 3 guides, one of whom bore a striking resemblance to my daughter, although I was certain it wasn't her. This guide served as a tether, a reminder of my connection to the earthly realm, urging me to continue the fight for life. My guides communicated with me telepathically, imparting lessons and revealing various facets of the universe. They encouraged me to merge with other life forms, a tree, a fish, and a lily flower, to experience their consciousness directly. My journey even took me across the cosmos, to another planet where I observed an intelligent alien species. The journey didn't end there. I was guided through the Akashic records, a comprehensive repository of every event, thought, word, and action. Here, lingering questions that predated my near-death experience were addressed. The guides offered insights into my life and the broader questions of existence, intertwining past, present, and what appeared to be simultaneous events. They showed me alternate realities, potential future events in my life, and broader world happenings. The discussions ranged from existential queries about the purpose of our existence on Earth to the nature of humanity, the concept of God, and the reality of life after death. Following this, one guide instructed me to extend my left hand, into which a silver sphere materialized. Then, in a moment of profound peace, the light body of Jesus appeared, assuring me of divine love, presence, and the absence of fear. My feelings were of complete neutrality, a readiness to accept whatever destiny was chosen for me by the divine. A bright white light then enveloped the room, shaping into a tunnel before me. But as I was informed it wasn't my time yet, the light withdrew. During my time in the hospital, my daughter, who felt a deep, energetic connection to me, steadfastly believed in my recovery against all odds. It was days before I regained enough consciousness to interact. Recollecting the moment a doctor, attempting to provoke a response, snapped his fingers before me demanding I speak, I could only muster an irritated something. This prompted laughter and a collective sigh of relief among those present, a sign I was indeed back and unaffected in terms of brain function, as evidenced by my sarcasm. My recovery surprised everyone, including my medical team. The tracheotomy site healed in a day, and my feeding tube site closed within 2 to 3 days. Sharing this experience took time, given its divergence from traditional religious teachings I had known. Nonetheless, I carry a profound gratitude for this journey and the life I returned to. This story was shared by LS and happened in 2015.
Story 2. When I received a shot for mononucleosis, everything suddenly went dark. I couldn't tell you how long I was out for. Time seemed to slip away entirely. In that darkness, I found myself in a surreal state, like I was floating, weightless, without a physical form. It was as if I had transformed into an orb of energy, drifting over vast stretches of lush, vivid green hills. The green was so vibrant, not flashy like neon lights, but a natural, intense hue. The hills seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon, not towering like mountains, but imposing in their expanse. I hovered about 10 feet above the ground, although it was hard to gauge distances with no clear reference points. Then, I encountered a river or stream, cutting through the landscape. On the other side stood the figures of my great-grandmother and grandfather, surrounded by a gathering of perhaps 50 or more family members. They were all there, in their earthly forms, though their features were somewhat obscured, as if seen through a foggy lens. Despite this, I knew them all, even those I'd never met in life. They seemed to beckon me, wordlessly but warmly, a silent invitation to join them. It was as though they were waiting eagerly to guide me to whatever lay beyond the river's edge. And there were pets too, familiar animals like dogs and other creatures, adding to the sense of familial reunion. There were no words exchanged, no verbal communication, but the atmosphere overflowed with a palpable sense of joy and anticipation. Looking back now, I realized that I might have had a choice in that moment, whether to stay with them or return to my earthly body. But if there was a choice, it wasn't made clear to me. I simply found myself waking up in the hospital bed once more, the experience slipping away like a dream upon waking. This story was shared by George C. and happened in the summer of 2005.
Story 3. I've always had this memory lingering in the back of my mind, like a puzzle piece waiting to be put into place. It wasn't until I turned 28 and shared it with my mom that I discovered its true origin. You see, as a baby, I found myself at the edge of a tunnel, mesmerized by the bright light before me. With my tiny right hand, I reached out, almost playfully, towards the illuminating glow. Inside the tunnel, 3 men caught my attention. They seemed jovial, chatting amongst themselves and occasionally glancing in my direction, their expressions filled with warmth and reassurance. The sequence of events is a bit hazy in my memory, but I distinctly recall a glimpse of hell, a disturbing vision that shook me to my core. And then there was my mother, tears streaming down her face outside a hospital door, with a male figure, perhaps a doctor or nurse, cradling me and administering injections into my bottom. When I finally shared this memory with my mom, she recounted a harrowing incident from when I was just a month old. During a routine bath, a few drops of water inadvertently entered my mouth, causing me to choke and turn blue. Despite her frantic efforts, I remained unresponsive for what felt like an eternity, my tiny body overwhelmed by foaming at the mouth. It was a terrifying ordeal, made worse by the delay in medical assistance due to the city being closed off. Only after a neighbor pleaded on my behalf did help finally arrive. As I reflected on this near-death experience, I found myself floating above my distraught mother, grappling with the weight of the decision to return. I glimpsed the future, envisioning not just my own life but the lives of my future children, with their striking blue eyes and blonde hair, a blend of my brown eyes and my husband's green eyes. Despite my attempts to delve deeper into this pivotal moment with my mother, she remains reticent, refusing to share any further details. But as I grew older, another encounter added to the tapestry of my spiritual journey. I encountered an angel of all things and dared to ask the age-old question, what is the purpose of life? His response, though enigmatic, left a lasting impression on me. He imparted knowledge directly into my mind, only to retract it moments later, teasing that the answers would reveal themselves in due time. In the midst of my lifelong struggle with troubling dreams and bouts of paralysis, this experience stood out as a beacon of love and reassurance, unlike anything I'd ever known. This story was shared by Serena M. and happened in 1991.
Story 4. When I was around 12 years old, it was a typical Sunday in Argentina, the time for families to gather for a hearty lunch. I found myself alone by the Olympic-sized pool, sans lifeguard, and with no clue about swimming. Watching other kids effortlessly dive into the deep end, I thought I could give it a shot too. Little did I know, the pool was a daunting 6 meters, 18 meters deep. Without hesitation, I took the plunge, mimicking the other kids. Feet first, I descended into the water, but as I sank deeper, panic set in. I floundered, struggling to find my way back up, feeling my lungs tighten as air became scarce. Then, amidst the chaos, my mind painted clear snapshots of my life. In those desperate moments, I couldn't help but wonder what my parents would think if they found me lifeless at the bottom of the pool. The next thing I recall is lying at the pool's edge, face down, tears streaming down my cheeks. There was no one around, no sign of how I got there, or how I escaped the water's clutches. I returned home in silence, keeping the incident buried deep inside, as my parents forbade me from visiting the pool again. Years later, I confided in my wife and children about my near-death experience. Yet despite my efforts, the memory remains fragmented. I can still vividly recall the terror of drowning, but the details of my rescue elude me. It's a puzzle I revisit daily, searching for answers that seem just out of reach. This story was shared by RV and happened in 1961.
Story 5. When I was just 6 years old, I found myself under anesthesia for an emergency appendectomy. That's when things took a surreal turn. In the haze of unconsciousness, I entered a tunnel. Picture this, a dark void illuminated by glowing electric lines, with rings of blue-green light fading into the distance. There was no single blinding light at the end, just this mesmerizing passage stretching out before me. Positioned to my front right, it sloped gently upwards, drawing me in. As I traversed this ethereal corridor, something even more remarkable unfolded. 4 or 5 women, not elderly, clad in pristine white dresses, approached me. Their presence was serene, their aura comforting. Even now, as I recount this experience, the memory remains vivid, etched into my mind like a timeless painting. It took a while for me to grasp the enormity of what I'd encountered, but from that moment on, fear of death ceased to grip me. Instead, I found a profound sense of calm, a deep-seated assurance that transcended mortal bounds. This encounter shaped my outlook on life in profound ways. It instilled in me a fearless spirit, a why-not attitude towards life's adventures. While I may have missed some chances for compassion, I've always been attuned to the suffering of others, willing to share what's mine. Now, at 85 years old, I look back on my journey with gratitude. It's been a privilege to lend a helping hand wherever I could, guided by the profound wisdom gained from that extraordinary encounter all those years ago. This story was shared by Shauna M. and happened in 1946. Story 6. During my teenage years, I had to undergo surgery to have all 4 wisdom teeth removed. Little did I know, it would be a journey beyond the realms of the ordinary. As the anesthesia took hold, I felt myself slowly detach from my body. Drifting upwards, I watched from above as the dentist and their assistant bustled around me, surrounded by other figures seated nearby. Higher and higher I floated until I breached the ceiling, slipping into the hidden spaces of the attic. Midway through my ascent, I began to slow, eventually finding myself in a prone position, suspended in the air. Around me, I sensed the presence of others, similarly disembodied, drifting in silence. Though we didn't exchange words, there was a profound awareness amongst us, a shared understanding of our ethereal state. As the surreal experience drew to a close, I gently rotated to face downwards, gradually descending through the layers of the ceiling. Below, my physical form lay still, the dental procedure nearing its end. With each unhurried movement, I closed the distance, until finally, I merged seamlessly back into my body. Suddenly, I was jolted awake by the nurse's voice, her words initially lost in my grogginess. Slowly, clarity returned, and I realized I was in a different room altogether. The entire episode felt fleeting, a mere 2 minutes in the grand scheme of things. Yet, as I came to terms with what had transpired, I marveled at the unexpected journey my unconscious mind had taken. Never had I imagined such an out-of-body encounter during a routine medical procedure. And in those moments of awakening, I couldn't shake the disbelief that all 4 extractions could have been completed in such a short span of time. This story was shared by Joan S. and happened a while ago.